The Bible Study Podcast, episode 468. Today, the Bible Study Podcast continues the study of Proverbs with chapter 7. Welcome to the Bible Study Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. I'll be honest with you, when I read chapter 7, I thought, wait a second, we already did this. This is warnings against the adulterous woman, but it turns out Proverbs is talking about it again, so it's going to be a little more tricky to pull out something new this time other than adultery is wrong, don't do it, and it's also dangerous. But let's see what we can do. My son, keep my words and store up my commands within you. Keep my commands and you will live. Guard my teachings as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers, write them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and to insight, you are my relative. They will keep you from the adulterous woman, from the wayward woman with her seductive words. Again, we see that Solomon has some trouble with adulterous women in his life, reaching out to him. But in this first section here, these first 5 verses, what he's really saying is, remember all the teachings, remember all the things that you've learned. We can be protected from doing the wrong thing in given situations by having the knowledge of what the right thing is close to mind. And for me, one of the things I think that means it can be Bible memorization. Now, I think some of you probably look at that with no great love at all, but it is that kind of keeping those words of the Bible close at hand, keeping them close to you so that you can recall them in a time that you need some extra encouragement. That's somewhat of what I see here, of keeping the commands close to your eyes, your fingers, as a tablet on your heart. They're near where you're touching things, they're near what you're looking at, and they're near what you're feeling. And then saying to wisdom, you are my sister, and to insight, you are my relative. To have it be something that is close to you, that is familiar and familial. To have it be a part of who you are, a part of your character. Think about your last name. What does that name mean when people hear about it? You know, this is kind of the thing that I remember hearing from my father is, you know, you got this name pretty much unsullied from me. Don't go and screw it up. But that who am I? Who do I define that person who is Chris Christensen to be? And keeping all these words of wisdom close so that they can be defining on a day-to-day basis as I make different decisions. And then let's look at a specific thing that's going on here. The interesting thing about this next section here is it seems to have been inspired by Solomon looking out his window and seeing a very specific scene. At the window of my house, I looked down through the lattice. I saw among the simple, I noticed among the young men a youth who had no sense. He was going down the street near her corner, walking along in the direction of her house at twilight as the day was fading, as the dark of night set in. Then out came a woman to meet him, dressed like a prostitute and with crafty intent. She is unruly and defiant. Her feet never stay at home. Now in the street, now in the squares. At every corner she lurks. She took hold of him and kissed him, and with a brazen face she said, Today I fulfilled my vows, and I have food from my fellowship offering at home. So I came out to meet you. I looked for you and have found you. I have covered my bed with the colored linens from Egypt. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let's drink deeply of love till morning. Let's enjoy ourselves with love. My husband is not at home. He has gone on a long journey. He took his purse filled with money and will not be at home till full moon. With persuasive words she led him astray. She seduced him with her smooth talk. All at once he followed her like an ox going to the slaughter, like a deer stepping into a noose, till an arrow pierces his liver, like a bird darting into a snare, little knowing it will cost him his life. Now then, my sons, listen to me. Pay attention to what I say. Do not let your heart turn to her ways or stray into her paths. Many are the victims she has brought down. Her slain are a mighty throng. Her house is a highway to the grave, leading down to the chambers of death. That is quite poetic, and I don't really want to focus in so much on the adultery part of this because we've talked about that before, but let's talk about this other part here, which is this isn't something that's happening accidentally. This young man is falling in love with a girl who isn't his wife, and so he is committing adultery. This is something where he is ensnared. And we need to be honest that sometimes in our lives we have one and sometimes we have the other. Sometimes there is actually somebody who is working to entice us, to draw us in, to seduce us. And that doesn't have to be for sexual things, but to seduce us, to draw us to something and make it look more attractive than it would be if we thought about it a little bit. Right? What Solomon is saying is you don't see this young man as he's looking down in his window and he's seeing this foolish young man. He's saying you don't see where this is leading. Our lives are made of a lot of little tiny decisions that add up to a path and a direction. But this is one of those big decisions that he's saying that this boy is heading off in this different direction that is a snare. Right? An ox going to the slaughter, a deer stepping into a noose, an arrow going to pierce his liver, bird darting into a snare, it will cost him his life. So he's very obvious here that what you are doing is leading you in a direction that leads to death. And we talked about, different ways that might be, but he's saying you're being seduced, you're being ensnared. And one of the reasons we keep those commands close is that when we're making decisions, the big, the little, the ones that look little and really turn out to be big, that we can have another voice that's speaking in our ears besides that seductive voice that says, no one will know. Besides that voice that says, it's nearly dark, no one is seeing, which of course in this case was untrue. Besides that voice that has smooth talk, that voice that's saying, everybody cheats in their taxes. That voice that is saying, well, it doesn't matter if you take some office supplies at home, that's what they're there for. It doesn't, that little voice that starts with little things, that starts with that kiss in the street and ends with that adulterous bed. But that voice also that starts by fudging this and fudging that until we're not sure where the truth is. Solomon wants another voice speaking in our ears, that voice of wisdom, that voice of God, so that we don't take the highway to the grave, so we don't take a path that is leading us away and away and away and away from God. It's not a path that starts with a U-turn. It's a path that seems to be heading in one direction and then slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly turns and heads somewhere else. And so to avoid that, we do study the Bible, but we also keep it close. I would encourage you this week to take one verse that's been meaningful to you and to memorize it. Write it down, put it on a card, maybe put it in the mirror where you're shaving or put it on the breakfast table. But take one verse that's been meaningful to you. It doesn't have to be from Psalms, and commit it to memory this week. If you have a better memory, maybe more than one, but start with one. Something that will make a difference for you this week. With that, we're going to end this episode of the Bible Study Podcast. If you have any questions, send an email to host@thebiblestudypodcast.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at thebiblestudypodcast.com. Maybe tell us what verse you're memorizing this week. You can find me on Twitter, Pinterest, or Instagram as Chris2X. And as always, thanks so much for listening.
Has fear stolen your peace? I'm Jennifer Slattery, lead host of the Faith Over Fear podcast, helping you fight your fears and grow your faith. Subscribe at lifeaudio.com.